Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the most unique, entertaining, and compelling sports talk podcast you'll ever listen to.
Let's be great. Let's be great.
Wendell's World in Sports with the one and only Wendell Wallace.
Giannis charging down the lane to the rim, double clutch, no good, tipped in. Giannis tipped it home.
Subscribe, rate, and review anywhere and everywhere you listen to this and all your favorite podcasts. And now, from Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, Rip, Roaring, and ready to rumble, Wendell Wallace.
And welcome to Wendell's World in Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us. A lot of things to get down on and discuss today in the World of Sports. Special dedication for those who are watching this on my YouTube channel. Thank you so doggone much. If you could do me a favor before I get into the NFL and such, if you could just do me this quick favor, if you're listening or if you're watching this episode and you're liking what you're listening to, and especially if you're a single lady between the ages of 42 and 49 and you're looking oh so attractive, if you're liking what you see, could you do me a favor, please? Could you just go ahead and subscribe to my channel, like the video, review, give comments on the video? I would appreciate it so much. And if you want to go ahead anywhere where you listen to your favorite podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, anywhere, listen to Wendell's World in Sports. If you like what you're listening to, go ahead, follow, rate, review, subscribe, download, all those good things. Most importantly, enjoy the most unique, entertaining, thought-provoking sports talk podcast that you can listen to. If you can do that, man, that would be oh so fantastic. I am Rip, I am roaring, and I am ready to go. So I just got off watching the game on ESPN2, Victor Wembanyama versus Scoop Henderson here, who plays in the G League, and Wembanyama plays for a pro team in France. Wembanyama is supposed to be the guy, a generational talent. That's supposed to be the number one pick in the next NBA draft, a guy who teams are going to be tanking for. Teams are going to be openly tanking for, and no one's going to be complaining whatsoever. I guess many people say that he's a 7'2", 7'3" Anthony Davis type player. I've said it before and I say it again. The small sample sizes I've had of watching Victor Wembanyama, I think he is the second generation, or he is the second coming, or he is this generation's potential of being a Ralph Sampson. I think that he has Anthony Davis type qualities, Anthony Davis type moves. There's the jump shot, there's the feel for the game, where there's the look of the game where you can tell that he's been emulating Kevin Durant, but man, I would show him tapes of Ralph Sampson in Virginia and his first couple of years with the Houston Rockets, where Ralph Sampson was on his way to becoming not just a generational talent, but also one of the all-time great players in NBA history before his knees gave out after his second season. But yeah, this is a situation where I think that Victor Wembanyama, at 7'3", be able to put the ball on the floor, shooting three-pointers, more of a perimeter game than anything else. Way back in the early 80s, that was the complaint about Ralph Sampson, the fact that here was a guy who could shoot jump shots. Here was a guy who could take the ball off the boards, the defensive boards, and then lead the break and pass and do all those type of perimeter skills at 7'4", something that no one had ever done. And he was criticized for the fact that he would never play that traditional back-to-the-basket, big-time, big man's basketball. Well, Victor Wembanyama, you can tell, has emulated the styles of a Kevin Durant, emulated the game of a Anthony Davis. Not comfortable back to the basket, low post moves, and that type of thing. But, he had three-point range. He can put the ball on the floor. He's got some move and fluidity to him at 7'3". So, Victor Wembanyama from France. Rudy Gobert has been given a lot of praise for molding his game and for getting his game better. He needs to add on the weight. He needs to add a little bit more athleticism to his game and that type of thing. But when you're 7'3", can put the ball on the floor, put it between your legs, step back, three-point shots with range out to NBA three-point land and beyond, you can see why Victor Wembanyama not only is a guy who's projected to be the number one draft pick in the upcoming draft next season, but also why teams are openly looking to tank to get that number one spot. See the San Antonio Spurs, see the Utah Jazz. I'm going to go ahead and talk about what's happening in the NBA. As I mentioned before, I set this on my audio episode of Wendell's World of in sports, again, which you can find on Amazon and you can find anywhere where you listen to your favorite podcast. I was speaking about, the love of my life. So I was speaking about in terms of sports. I was speaking about the loves of my life. Now, when you're just speaking about an individual or team or such, I know people have the Dallas Cowboys, people have the New York Yankees, people have the Los Angeles Lakers, depending upon where you are, depending upon where you grew up, whatever your childhood experience was with that team for you to become a sports fan, and you attach that team to the reason, the foundation on why you became such a sports fan and why you care so much about sports. Again, if you're from the New York area, depending upon what borough you're from, you can either go with the New York Mets, you can go with the New York Jets, you can go with the New York Yankees, you can go with the New York Giants, you can go with the New York Rangers, or you can go with the New York Islanders. It's interesting when you correlate those teams, the fact that if you like the New York Jets for the most part, if you're from the city of New York, if you're from that region, that area, you always go by Jets, Mets, and Islanders. And if you're from Manhattan and such, you always go with Yankees, Giants, and Rangers. So it's always interesting when you speak about, cities with multiple teams as far as leagues are concerned. But for me, the loves of my life in terms of a team is concerned, while growing up I was a huge Showtime Laker fan with Magic Johnson, one of the reasons why I became such a huge basketball fan, why basketball as a sport became so important to me, why I wanted to play it, why I wanted to be in the NBA, why I'm still so passionate about it. The Los Angeles Lakers played a big role in the 1980s with Magic and Kareem and James Worthy and Byron Scott and Mark Lansberger and Bob McAdoo and Norm Nixon and all those guys throughout the years of that Showtime Laker group that won 5 championships in 9 years, or 5 championships in the 1980s. The rivalry with Larry Bird made for great television for a guy growing up in the DMV. Again, crystallized, really solidified my love of sports and became the foundation of why I'm such a huge sports fan, and why I love the NBA, or why I love basketball so much, why I wanted to play it so much, and why physically I really can't do that anymore. And it really kind of pisses me off that I can't. But basketball, yes, but as far as teams are concerned, without question, without doubt, because the Magic Johnson Showtime Lakers are over, I'm no longer a Los Angeles Laker fan. Without question, though, when you speak about the loves of my life till death do us part, I'm speaking about my Georgetown Hoyas, which I'll be talking about more and more as we get closer to the November kickoff for the basketball team. Thank goodness for the NFL and my devotion and my passion and my love for the NFL, that I don't need to go ahead and lament and go ahead and try to get my fix for Georgetown basketball every single day in September and October, when the players are back in school and acclimating themselves to the new curriculum, and to the freshmen coming from high school to college and getting themselves acclimated about being away from home for the first time and that type of things. And because of that, there's really not too many updates in terms of what's happening with the college basketball team over in Northwest Washington, D.C., the loves of my life, the Georgetown Hoyas. So I thank goodness, I thank God that I have the distraction, which is the NFL, to get into, and it's such a huge distraction. It takes so much of my time to watch and discuss and break down, because NFL is king, that during these times I'm not feeding too much to hear about what's happening with Georgetown basketball. But yes, until death do us part, we're speaking about the love of my life, the Georgetown Hoyas. So that's my deal when you speak about that. But when you're speaking about other sports in terms, so basically all I'm going to try to say is the fact that now with the NBA season rolling back in, the NBA being my wifey, the NBA being my Halle Berry, the NBA being the love of my life, the NBA being my Monica Bellucci, the NBA being my Vivica A. Fox, my NBA being my Selma Hayek, the NBA being my, the love of my life till, death do us part in terms of the sports is concerned. I am definitely going to jump full board, dive headfirst into the lake, the ocean of NBA, but I'm also, of course, going to be centered around speaking about what is happening with the NFL, because that's also a league and a sport that I am very, very, very passionate about. If I'm going to be cheating on my wifey, the NBA, it's going to be with the NFL. So Yeah, man, there we go. So that's just a long way for me to say the NBA I'm going to be speaking about in the upcoming weeks more and more and more and more. But the center of attention in terms of what I'm going to be speaking about, of course, is going to be the NFL. Wendell's World in Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you can be with us. So let's just go ahead and get started, shall we? The biggest games of the weekend when you're speaking about the NFL. I want to start off and just ask the question right now, and I'm going to explain it because I know the first part of this is going to sound ludicrous and ridiculous. In the state of Dallas, Texas, or in the state of Texas, in the city of Dallas, concerning its NFL football team, is there a controversy? Is there a quarterback controversy? Now, I'm not talking about the notion. I'm not trying to bring up the argument. I'm not talking about the discussion point of should Cooper Rush replace Dak Prescott and all those type of things. Dallas beat my Washington Commanders 25-10 to improve to 3-1 on the season, 3-0 with Cooper Rush as the starting quarterback. I am not saying, of course, that Cooper Rush should be the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, regardless of what happens with Dak Prescott and his thumb. That's what I'm not saying. Where I say that there's a quarterback controversy is when should Dallas finally bring back Dak Prescott? Should the Cowboys rush Dak Prescott back into the lineup if Cooper Rush and the Cowboys are going to be continuing to have success? Now, what I'm going to propose is that, hey, man, Dak Prescott doesn't have to be 100% if the Cowboys are still rolling to put him back in there. I mean, but I'm saying anything between 85, 90, 95%, somewhere around there. You wait till that thumb is that strong or is that ready to go before you go ahead and put Prescott back into the starting lineup, even if there's going to be a little bump in the road with the Cowboys. Right now they're 3-1, one game behind the Philadelphia Eagles for first place in the NFC East. So, yeah, they're right there. So let's just say, for instance, Dallas goes to an upset and angry and embarrassed and revenge-filled Los Angeles Rams team and get beat, and then they maybe go to the next game and get beat, which makes them 3-3. Should we then say, even though Jerry Jones went on his radio show in Dallas and said that Prescott is still having problems gripping the football, should we, if the Cowboys go out and lose a couple of games in a row, should we now be making the notion, should we now be stating that Dak Prescott at 50, 55, 60%, 6 games, 7 games into the season should come back and be the starting quarterback? Now, a lot of that depends on, of course, the totality of the team itself. If Cooper Rush continues to play at the level that he's playing, basically being a game manager and not doing anything to cause the Cowboys to lose and have the Cowboys win on their running game and their defense, then I think that if, say, for instance, against the Rams or the next team that they play, or Dallas goes into a little bit of a mini slump, is Cooper Rush is still playing at the level that he's playing at, which is probably the expectations that Dallas wants to have for Cooper Rush. Again, I don't think that you rush Dak Prescott back. Now, if he comes out and he starts having 2 or 3 turnovers because he had to do a lot more because the team is falling behind and blah, blah, blah. Still, again, in the NFL, we're talking about a marathon. We're not talking about a sprint. And yet there's 17 games. Absolutely, undeniably, I understand that. And if you're looking at a Philadelphia Eagle team that could possibly, after 7 games, be 6-1, 5-2, and you see the Cowboys slip up a little bit and stumble to 3-3, that it might be a situation where if Dak is still not completely ready to get back and be a contributor with that thumb or with that finger, we'll go ahead and put him in anyway to try to stem the tide of losing. I think that would be a big mistake. Other factors have to play into it for someone to make a concrete decision that Dak Prescott at 55, 60, 65% is going to be able to elevate a team in Dallas that has stumbled to correct some of the losing that was going on. That would still be a debate at that time. But the way Cooper Rush is playing right now, there's a controversy again to say that a guy in Dak Prescott who had surgery on his right thumb September 12th and had the stitch removed on September 26th is going to be able to be playing football in the next 1 or 2 weeks. So look, the defense, I think, when you get right down to it here on Wendell's World of Sports podcast with yours truly, I really think it's a situation where we shouldn't be counting on the Dallas offense. And we shouldn't be counting on Dak Prescott, regardless of what happens with his thumb. When he comes back, how healthy the thumb is going to be, that type of thing. I don't think that we should be relying on the Dallas offense in terms of that being the most important side of the football to get them to a divisional playoff game or a divisional playoff championship game or winning the Super Bowl as such. If Dallas is going to be winning a Super Bowl, if Dallas is going to reach its potential, it's going to be because of that defense. The defense is going to be the barometer in terms of whether Dallas is going to reach expectations and play for championship games and win playoff games and such. I think the defense is going to have to be the key. Even with Dak Prescott coming back, I don't think it's a situation where Dallas had the offensive weapons. CeeDee Lamb has improved. The return of Michael Galloway catching a touchdown against my Commanders. The offensive line being inconsistent, but Tony Pollard bringing in a nice change in pace to an ever-declining Ezekiel Elliott. But yet and still, this is not a team in Dallas on the offensive side of the football that's going to be able to put up 28, 38, over 40 points a game, I think, on any type of semi-consistency. So because of that, it's going to have to be the Dallas defense that's going to have to get them to where they want to go. And so far, so good. I mean, we can kind of elevate the Dallas Cowboys defense now, wouldn't you say, over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after that performance that Tampa gave against Kansas City on Sunday night? Because if you just take a look from a statistical standpoint with the Cowboys, who entered the week with just 4 red zone appearances by their opponents and allowed only 1 against my Commanders, they haven't allowed 20 points in a game so far this season from another team. They've allowed only 1 touchdown in each of their games. And on Sunday against my Washington Commanders, the Cowboys defense sacked Carson Wentz twice, intercepted them twice, and harassed them all game long. So again, Dallas winning with a defense and balanced, controlled offense. I know Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys, when Dak Prescott comes back, might be tempted to swing things up and have Prescott start throwing the ball around the stadium and such, and maybe kind of miss up that balance that the Cowboys have had so far with Cooper Rush, with the limitations that he has. The fact that you don't want him because the fact that he's being asked to be a game manager. If you take a look at the 3-game winning streak against Cincinnati and the Giants and Washington that the Cowboys have been on, Cooper Rush has passed the ball 89 times. The Dallas offense has ran the ball 86 times. That's what you call balanced offense, homeboy. So Cooper Rush, he has an average he's averaged somewhere around 250 yards per game. He's only had 1 game where he's thrown for over 250 yards. So I think for Dallas to be successful, look, even when Prescott comes back, let's just keep relying on that 89, 86 balanced type offense that we're talking about. We don't need to see Dak Prescott. Yes, I know he's making over $40 million a year. Yes, I know that he's being paid to be an elite quarterback, to have the situation where he'll be able to throw the ball a multitude of times and be able to carry an offense that doesn't have a true number 1 wide receiver just yet, to be able to make up for some of the inefficiencies of the Dallas offense. But hey, man, for right now, when Dak Prescott comes back, and for the rest of the season, I think, again, a balanced offense never hurts. And even with all the rule changes, sliding to the offense and trying to do whatever they can to make it more of a passing type of game in the National Football League for 2022, but I think you still win championships. I still think the best teams are the teams that have themselves a balanced offense. The Kansas City Chiefs, look, without question, they're not a better team without Tyreek Hill. That's ridiculous. But it also means that they're going to have to rely on the running game with that 2-headed monster that they got in the backfield at the running back position. This rookie that they have, Pacheco, not to fight Dr. Ferdy Pacheco, but this kid Pacheco from, Rutgers or something like that, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire gives those guys a really nice 1-2 punch from the running back position for Kansas City and the offensive line that had been retooled a few times after Kansas City lost their NFL championship game to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a few years ago. Those things are the key to have Patrick Mahomes do what Patrick Mahomes can do. So offensive line, balance on offense, running game had to be efficient. Again, even with Dak Prescott coming back, the formula for success that the Cowboys have been executing is all about the star of the show being the Dallas defense. Let's keep it that way when Dak Prescott returns from injury, either in a couple of weeks or whenever. Wendell's World in Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you can be with us. I guess some other games in the NFL from the past week. The Buffalo Bills winning, the Baltimore Ravens snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, 23-20. Josh Allen, my Josh Allen was something else, wasn't he? Drove the Bills down the field, and Tyler Bass made a 21-yard field goal as time expired for the victory. Second time this season that Baltimore lost a home game after leading 17 points or more. On my audio podcast, I thought it was the New York Jets, but I was right. The New York Jets in week 2 came back against the Cleveland Browns. My bad. It was the Miami Dolphins with the game that the Ravens gave up a 17-point lead or more at home. It was the Miami Dolphins, not the New York Jets. So there you go. The Ravens held a 20-3 lead late in the second quarter before watching Buffalo score 20 straight points. Again, Baltimore became the first team in 8 years to lose multiple games at home when leading by 17 or more points. But everything is going to be swirling. Everybody is going to be talking about, everybody is going to be discussing exactly what was Ravens head coach John Harbaugh thinking on that last offensive possession for the Ravens, with the score tied at 20 with around 4 minutes to go in the final quarter. The Ravens, second down from the Buffalo 1-yard line, 2 straight runs, didn't get anything, so came to fourth down instead of kicking the field goal to go ahead 23-20 with about 4 minutes left to go. Harbaugh decided to have the offense for the Ravens try to go for it on fourth down from the 2-yard line, and on fourth down, Lamar Jackson scrambled around through a pass to the end zone that was intercepted for a touchback. After the game, Harbaugh was talking about in terms of his decision to go for it on fourth down and not kick a field goal, talking about worst case scenario if they score, Buffalo comes down to score, then we go into overtime. And what he was also saying with the fact that, hey, even if we don't convert on fourth down, the fact that Buffalo's going to be at the 2-yard line is going to have to have so much field to go down, and he believes in the defense and all those kind of things. So everything that could have gone wrong for Baltimore on that play, on that fourth down play, did go wrong. The play call from offensive coordinator Greg Roman was a booty. I don't know how, with Lamar Jackson, the responsibility that he has on any one of those occasions on second, third, or fourth down, that somehow you don't get him out and for him to do some things, some RPOs or something in terms of getting the ball in his hands and make things happen. That the play on fourth down was just mind-boggling to me. But, I'm not an offensive coordinator. He knows the game a lot more than I do, so all right, whatever, man. But, the fact that he threw an interception erased the opportunity for Baltimore to put his defense on the field against the Bills at the 2-yard line. Instead, it was at the 20-yard line because of the touchback and this, that, and the other. Buffalo drove the ball down the field with the help of just an absolutely atrocious roughing the passer call. That was bad. That was bad, awful bad. Got the ball into the position for the Bills to kick a game-winning field goal. Ravens quarterback, you see your Marcus Peters up there shouting and screaming and yelling at Harbaugh and had to be pulled away and all that type of stuff, throwing a tantrum and all this kind of stuff because he's like, that's bullshit, man, that's nonsense, blah, blah, blah. How could you do that? That was a stupid call. You took away the opportunity for us to take the lead. I guess that could have been frustration, mainly pointed at the offense that they didn't get the ball into the end zone. Maybe it was a situation where he was frustrated at the defense for not being able to stop the Bills march down the field and kick a game-winning field goal. Maybe it was even lamenting and arguing and temper-tantering about the atrocious roughing the passer call. Either way, it was not a good sight. So it's but here's the deal. Here's what I want to say about that. Whether you agree with the call or disagree with the call, For me, in terms of whether I agree or disagree, number one, I'm not the coach of the Ravens. I don't know this team. I don't practice with this team. I don't know these players. I don't have any personal connection with these players. The coach for the Baltimore Ravens knows a lot more about the makeup of his team than I do. Or, matter of fact, than you do. Now, again, I think that we can criticize the play call that was brought into Jackson in the offense on fourth down. If you want to go ahead and criticize that, or even if you want to criticize the plays on second or third down, that's fine. But I think in terms of what Harbaugh did going forward on fourth down, man, it's all about consistency. And John Harbaugh, throughout his tenure as the coach for the Baltimore Ravens, has shown that he's going to be aggressive, has shown that he's going to go for it on fourth down, even if the book or even if the numbers or even if the optics from the layman, which is us, looking at the game, say that that's a ridiculous move or that's a bad move or he shouldn't have done that. Hey, again, John Harbaugh knows his team a lot more than we do. And he spends a lot more time watching film. He spends a lot more time talking to his coordinators. And he spends a lot more time putting game plans in. And again, he knows an infinitely amount more about the game of football than we ever do. To be sitting up there and lambasting this guy like we could do better. Again, if you want to question or if you want to, scratch your head on the fourth down call, all right. But then again, I don't know what Greg Roman was looking at, but I wasn't in that situation. I don't have that experience, so. All right, man, whatever, do what you need to do. And, if it works, then fantastic. If it doesn't work, then we're all going to call him an idiot. Lamar Jackson said it himself. Hey, if we would have executed the play, then none of this stuff really would have been a talking point. If the Ravens go ahead and score and win the game, no one's talking about what a blunder or what a bad move John Harbaugh made in terms of that. Everybody's talking about what a gambler he is, what guts he has, what temerity, what that and the other. And all the, so it's, you take the good and the bad and all that type of stuff. And I'll mention this before here on Wendell's World of Sports, the podcast on YouTube, what I'm speaking about with the Baltimore Ravens falling to the Buffalo Bills. This was not the reason. When I said that the Baltimore Ravens snatched defeat from the jaws of victory concerning this game, this had nothing to do, for the most part, with that fourth down call that was made. Look, man, when you're up 20-3, it shouldn't even be in a position where the Ravens had to go for a fourth down to break a tie. Whether it be kicking a field goal or whether it be going for it on fourth down, what are the Ravens doing even in that position when you're up 20-3 in the second quarter? Where is the killer mentality to put the boot on their throats and finish the deal? Especially when you're talking about a team in the Buffalo Bills who, if your aspirations are to make it and win it to a Super Bowl, which I think the Baltimore Ravens have the capabilities of doing, you got to let the Bills know right now that those things, in terms of when they get you down or when the Ravens got the Buffalo Bills down, that the chances of you coming back are nil. Now this is a situation, especially with this game being played at the stadium where the Ravens are there in Baltimore, Maryland. This is a situation where you've given now Buffalo even more confidence to say that, you know what, when we get down or if we get down to the playoffs the next time we meet them, that's okay, because we've come back and we've done this before. So it's a situation where, look, the Ravens were shut out in the second half. They didn't even get into the red zone. Forget trying to score or forget scoring a touchdown. The Ravens didn't get into the red zone until the last part of the fourth quarter with the game tied. That's unacceptable. To be sitting there and saying, oh, well, then it has to be Jim Harbaugh's fault. Look, the team knows Harbaugh. I mean, this is not going to be a situation where this call all of a sudden now is going to bring some type of rift or is going to have them lose trust or have them lose faith in Harbaugh. That's not going to be the situation because, again, consistency. This is something that Coach Harbaugh does. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Hey, man, there ain't nothing in life except death and taxes that you can count on 100% of the time, homeboy. And this is one of these situations where, hey, look, man, as long as you're going out, as long as you go down being you, in terms of this is what we do, this is how we handle things, this is what I believe in, then I think the players can live with that. Because, again, ultimately, it's the players who are responsible for executing the play that was called perfectly. And Lamar Jackson, who is one of the best players in the game, playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the game, one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the game. The argument also could be made that from the 2-yard line on fourth down, who would you rather have? Justin Turner, who's an excellent field goal kicker, kicking a field goal, or putting it into the hands of Lamar Jackson? If you're going to be paying Lamar Jackson buku bucks, if you're going to be paying Lamar Jackson over $150 million in guaranteed money or an obscene amount of money, then this should be a situation where on fourth down, put the ball in Lamar Jackson's hands and let them do something. That's the difference between a franchise great quarterback and a mediocre to bad quarterback, which then entails that's the difference between teams who are capable of winning championships and teams that are completely irrelevant. So again, this to sit there and say John Harbaugh, they lost because of John Harbaugh, don't think that's the case at all. Wendell's World of Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us. So, after 4 weeks, there's only one undefeated team left, right? That's the Philadelphia Eagles, 29-21 victory over the Jacksonville Jaguars. And a game that was ugly, and a game that was rain-soaked, and a game that was... you see, I live out here in northwest Las Vegas. I spoke about this on my audio podcast because I live out here in a desert. And it's like when I was watching these games, just like in week 1 when I was watching the Chicago Bears and the Houston Texans, and I was watching some of these other games, it was interesting to me because, again, out here in Las Vegas, every single flipping day is sunny and hot, sunny and hot, sunny and hot, sunny and hot. Oh, and after that it's going to be sunny and fucking hot. No wind, no clouds, no rain, no sleet, no snow, no adverse weather conditions. No, it's just either, adverse weather condition. It's going to be hot, hotter than the hottest. Every single flipping day. Sun, hot, sun. Sunny, hot, sunnier, hotter. So when I was watching this game, or when I was watching some of the highlights of the game between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Philadelphia Eagles, I was like, what's that stuff coming down from the heavens? What's that stuff coming down from the sky? It looks like water. What is that called when water falls down from the sky? What does that feel like? What does that look like? I don't know, because I live in a fucking desert. I know, my choice. But, so the adverse weather conditions didn't stop the Eagles from doing what they needed to do, i.e. winning ugly, which all teams who are looking to win championships are going to have to do every single, not every single game, but a multitude of times during the regular season. The Eagles rushed for 210 yards against a Jaguars run defense, by the way, that had just allowed 55 yards per game. Miles Sanders ran for a career-high 132 yards on the ground. Jalen Hurts ran for a touchdown also, got lit up pretty good, but still showed the toughness, physical toughness to take that blow, scored a touchdown, and get up like it was nothing but a baby scratch. The defense for Philadelphia also managed to get 5 takeaways, including 4 fumbles that led to 3 touchdowns, and the final one that saved the deal, sealed the deal. Signed, sealed, delivered. I'm the wonder of Stevie. So Trevor Lawrence was not able to handle the weather conditions, while the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts were. So my question to you in asking this here on Wendell's World of Sports podcast with yours truly is going to be this: when concerning the Philadelphia Eagles, what do you make of this team? I know they're very good and they're great, this, that, and the other. Glass half full, glass half empty on the Eagles. Is it really not early enough for us to sit there and be like, yep, fuck it, they're the best, they're this, that, and the other, they're really good, they're going to be contenders, they're going to hang around and all this type of stuff. They got the defense, they got the offense, they got the balance, they got the coaching, they got this, they got that. After 4 games, we're ready to say that about the Eagles after 4 games. They beat the Detroit Lions 38-35, and if we saw that game against the Seahawks, that the Detroit Lions defense made Geno Smith look like flipping Johnny Unitas, Tom Brady from 2007, Peyton Manning, and doggone Otto Graham all mixed into one. Yeah, Otto Graham, look it up, kids, learn something about the NFL history. But the Lions have shown to be suspect on defense, so if you're going to allow Geno Smith to score 41 points on you, scoring 38, glass half empty for the haters, that's going to be something where it's kind of like, yeah, big deal. The best win of the season so far came against Minnesota on Monday Night Football, 24-7. And we know on most occasions how Kirk Cousins kind of underperforms when the spotlight is on him the brightest. Very strong second quarter against my Washington Commanders in a 24-8 win. And then they beat Jacksonville. So you take a look at ththose records combined, it's 7-9. Okay, it's not 5-11. Okay, it's not 4-12. Okay, it's not it's not 6-10. But still, I'm waiting for, and I guess we're going to have to, really wait until the Cowboys come along? I'm waiting for that one game. I'm waiting for that one opportunity. I'm waiting for that one moment in time where I'm more than I thought it could be, when all of my dreams were a heartbeat away and the answers were all up to me. Give me. So I want to see Philadelphia play that game. And look, maybe it's a situation if you're always going to be pessimistic on Philadelphia, if you're going to be a hater on that football team, then yeah, I guess maybe if they play Dallas and they have a good game and then they win, that maybe you can find something in terms of, well, Prescott is still recovering and this, that, the other. Maybe you can find some excuses. But I'm looking for that one significant game so far from Philadelphia. And hey, you can only play what's on your schedule. I get it and I understand it. But, man, they're probably going to be, or they probably already are. I haven't been able to check the power rankings yet on ESPN or the NFL.com site. But they're probably going to be the number one power team in the NFL so far, 4-0. How much do we validate that in terms of the Philadelphia Eagles being one of the top-tier teams in the NFL? And what do we do in terms of defining that? So it's like, okay, if you don't believe that the Eagles are the number one team in the NFL because of a small sample size, would you at least say that they're one of the best teams in the NFL? If they're not going to be number one because you have to see them a little bit more, you have to put them one in your top three, right? In your top four, right? You still have to put them in the tournament to be one of the teams that can compete for an NFL championship, don't you? But again, it's like Jacksonville, the Commanders, Minnesota, and Detroit. Okay, fine. They were impressive against Minnesota. They were good, impressive for one quarter and just cruised the rest of the way. Defense against my Commanders was outstanding, sacking Carson Wentz 9 times. A lot of that had to deal with Carson Wentz holding onto the ball so long. But when it mattered most, the Eagles dominated. So half glass full with that one. You can go to that point and say, okay, that will validate my thoughts and opinions about the Philadelphia Eagles being the best team or one of the best teams or the top two teams in the NFL. Beating Jacksonville the way that they did, all right, fine. Jacksonville is an improving team, but still not one of the elite teams or one of the better teams or a team that could be competing for a championship or for a playoff position just yet. Season's only 4 weeks in, so we really don't know about that. But doggone it, man. These Eagles, I don't know. They did lose to the 49ers, but did you see the way the 49ers played against the Rams on Monday night? Would you pick the Eagles over the San Francisco 49ers? A fully healthy Tampa Bay defense, getting all the offensive weapons back. Are you really going to pick the Eagles to beat Tom Brady? Yeah, I know they did it once in the Super Bowl. I understand that. But, whole new scenario, whole new coach, whole new everything. Are you going to, in a game, go against Tom Brady, against a team in Philadelphia that looks pretty good, that's played pretty good, but if you check the recent background and the history of the team of Philadelphia right now, they haven't done anything. They haven't won a playoff game. They haven't done what Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have done. They haven't done what Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams have done. Are you still going with the Philadelphia Eagles over the Dallas Cowboys in their conference? Did you see that game between Kansas City and Tampa? I mean, if we're going to even, expand on this a little bit more, I mean, are you going to pick Philadelphia over the Buffalo Bills? Are you going to pick the Eagles over the Kansas City football team? I mean, are we going to go there with that? Now, the list is pretty short in terms of this question being asked with legitimacy. But still, man, it's like, okay, Jalen Hurts. I spoke about it on my last podcast about the improvement of Jalen Hurts. The fact that one of the reasons why I even mentioned the name MVP or mentioned MVP next to his name, even though it was silly to do that so early on in the season, because it's a testament to a guy who was drafted in the second round just to be Carson Wentz's backup, because the Eagles still believe that Carson Wentz was the guy to be the face of the franchise and the franchise quarterback. and that Jalen Hurts was there just to be an adequate backup, just in case a guy in Carson Wentz who had suffered injuries throughout his NFL career with the Eagles on a consistent basis, that they would have an adequate backup. This was never supposed to be the situation. Jalen Hurts wasn't drafted to supplant Carson Wentz as the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. It was just a situation that Carson Wentz stunk so bad, and the vibe and the chemistry and the atmosphere and the aroma surrounding the Philadelphia Eagles franchise and the players and such, as the stench was so bad that it was just a situation where just we have to put Jalen Hurts in there. And the improvements that he's made and everything that went down in the offseason, in fact, that showed the fans, that showed the football fans that the Eagles weren't even really into Jalen Hurts being their long-term starting quarterback, that they had discussions with Seattle in terms of acquiring Russell Wilson, or having discussions with the Houston Texans to see about acquiring Deshaun Watson, or kicking the tires on the possibility of acquiring Deshaun Watson. So, I mean, where Jalen Hurts has made moves and made strides so far to become the quarterback that he is so far this season, I think is admirable. And again, that's the reason why MVP should be put to his name. But when everything is all said and done, when you take a look at the top quarterbacks in the NFL, quarterbacks who have the potential, quarterbacks who have the pedigree, quarterbacks who have the experience of winning a championship, quarterbacks who are expected because of their talents to win championships. Do we put Jalen Hurts on that list? I mean, as far as winning championships is concerned, at the quarterback position, Patrick Mahomes has already done it. Tom Brady has already done it. Aaron Rodgers, while be it a while ago, but he's already done it. And he's been through the battles, and he had the experience, and is still playing at a high level. Are we ready to put Jalen Hurts in a conversation? Are we ready to have Jalen Hurts sit at the table as far as the elite quarterbacks of the NFL, or the quarterbacks with the expectations to do great things for their franchises, not just this year, but for the next few years to come? Are we ready to put him with Justin Herbert? Are we ready to put him with Patrick Mahomes? Are we ready to put him with Josh Allen? Are we ready to put him with any of those guys? Are we ready to put him with Joe Burrow? Are we ready to put him in that category? Are you ready to put Jalen Hurts in that category so far through 4 games? Yes, but in the long term, the marathon, which is this NFL season and every NFL season, are you confident that Jalen Hurts is still going to be there in terms of one of the MVPs in week 8 or week 12 or week 15 or in the first round of the playoffs? Are you still confident about that? Because I still have questions concerning that. I do. Wendell's World in Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us. Look, man, I got to wake up in about 4 hours, and I got to go to Mesquite, Nevada, because there's some kids out there who need Mr. Wallace's help. They need some help with their history. They need some help on learning about civil rights. They need to learn who Malcolm X is. They need to learn who Otis Redding is. They need to learn who Muhammad Ali is. They need to learn about John F. Kennedy and the assassination and Lee Harvey Oswald. They need to know about Martin Luther King more than I Have a Dream speech. And with homecoming coming up, they need to learn how to dance. And I'm not talking about dancing to that crap that the kids are listening to today. I'm talking about having them listen to a little Aretha Franklin. I have them speaking about, talking about, learning about, dancing about, learning how to dance to a Donny Hathaway, a Curtis Mayfield, a Otis Redding, a Anita Baker, a Diana Ross, a Levi Stubb in the Four Tops, a James Brown, get on down. I have to teach them the 1-2. I have to teach them the 1-2 because let me tell you something. At this homecoming, it's going to be formal. It's going to be semi-formal attire. No skirts and chucks, y'all. No dresses and chucks. Leave your chucks, leave your tennis shoes at home. Fellas, shirt, tie, looking good, being gentlemen. I got to have these kids. Got to get these kids straight. Got to get my boys and my buddies. Got to get them right. So all of that is to say that, look, man, I'm just not going to be able to do the bumper music. I'm not going to be able to get on down. I'm just going to go straight through. I'm just going to plow right through for this podcast and get it out there. Hope that y'all enjoy it. and letting y'all know that, again, Mr. Wallace is hard at work making sure that my generation is going to be taken care of when we're too old to be working, and this generation that I'm teaching right now is going to have the ability, it's going to have the intelligence, it's going to have the wherewithal, it's going to have the overall being to take care of us, to make sure that our Medicare and our Medicaid and our health plans are pretty good, to make sure that our living conditions are going to be good, making sure that our Social Security is going to be good, making sure that everything concerning us, to make sure that we live the last few years of our lives in relative peace and comfortability is going to be taken care of. So because of that, they need to learn about the civil rights movement. They need to learn about Me Too. They need to learn about the history of segregation and denigration and disrespect and misogyny and all those type of things, so they can see the pathway of where they started, where this country started 40, 50, 60 years ago at that point, and then move it to where it is now and how it has affected and benefited them all in the same way. And you do that by telling them and having them learn about Muhammad Ali and how important February 25th, 1964 is. And you have them learn about the summit with Jim Brown and Muhammad Ali and Sam Cooke and Malcolm X and such. And you teach them about Malcolm X. You teach them about all those things. I'm doing it for us. Don't thank me later. Just go ahead and show your support by subscribing to my YouTube channel and boogieing on. So that's my way of saying that there is going to be no bumper music. So let's just keep it rolling with what is happening with Wendell's World of Sports, the podcast with yours truly, Wendell Wallace, speaking about what is going on, what is happening in the NFL. So, Kansas City, Tampa. I guess this was a situation in that game with Kansas City winning 41-31. Do you think that this was Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs? They had a lot more on their plate in terms of wanting to win this football game than we're going to show the pundits, and we're going to show the talking heads, and we're going to show the bloggers, and we're going to show the folks on the talking head shows, and we're going to show all the guest hosts on the Shannon and Skip show, and the Screamin' A show, and the Mike Greenberg show, and the show on the afternoon on FS1 with the sexy Joy Taylor and the beautiful and intelligent Joy Taylor. All these folks who haven't been talking about us, all these folks who have been lamenting and going on and on about the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen and speaking about Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson being the MVP and all these other stuff, and the rise of Justin Herbert and all this type of stuff, and with the acquisition of Russell Wilson, the Denver Broncos are now going to be true players, and the Las Vegas Raiders acquiring this Devontae Adams, and we're losing Tyreek Hill and all this type of stuff, and all of a sudden now Kansas City kind of took to the background just a tad in terms of teams to be talking about, in terms of storylines to be told. I think Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City was kind of like, excuse me, before you started anointing the Buffalo Bills as Super Bowl contenders, before you start talking about the Philadelphia Eagles being the number one squad in terms of the power rankings and all this kind of stuff, before you guys go on and on and on and on and on about the Dallas Cowboys, excuse me, we're still Kansas City. We still got the baddest motherfucker at the quarterback position on the planet in Patrick Mahomes. And let me give you a little bit of a reminder of how good we can be against a defense in the Buccaneers that is Super Bowl worthy. And a new look Kansas City football team. Yeah, they don't have Tyreek Evans, but now they have themselves an offensive line which was much better than a few years ago. They have, as I mentioned before, a two-headed running attack. And these things, when you think about this, a strong running game, a strong offensive line, as far as the offense is concerned, that travels. I mean, that's going to be a situation. If you remember the Monday night game last season between the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots, a game that the Patriots won when Mac Jones threw the ball like 3 times because the weather conditions were so horrible out there in Buffalo. And in the meantime, while the Patriots were running the ball left and right and up the middle and all around, and Mac Jones was just basically handing the ball off, and the Buffalo Bills were still trying to throw it all over the yard. Who won that game, by the way? Yes, the New England Patriots. The point is that I'm trying to make is the fact that there's going to be some games in December. There's going to be some games in January where Kansas City is going to be playing in weather that's going to be yicky, that's going to be yucky, that's going to be mucky, that's going to be sucky, that's going to be not conducive for Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes to put on the offensive display that they did on Sunday night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They now have the components to where Patrick Mahomes doesn't have to be the greatest quarterback who's ever lived on a consistent basis. That's hard to do, man. You take a look at all the great quarterbacks who's come down the pike in the NFL. For Patrick Mahomes to continuously play better than all of those guys at their peaks, that's damn near unrealistic. That is unrealistic. Patrick Mahomes, it can't duplicate the performance that he had against Tampa over and over and over again. And again, Patrick Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the NFL, which he reminded us on Sunday night. But you can't expect Mahomes to play at that level game after game after game. So now a situation where the running game and the offensive line is going to contribute mightily, importantly, for Kansas City. So again, this, and the guys on the Monday Night Football show, Steve Young and Booger McFarland and those guys were speaking about, look, man, I mean, losing Tyreek Hill doesn't make you a better football team. But what it does is kind of allocates the funds that you were going to put toward retaining Tyreek Hill, and you put it into an offensive line that needed an upgrade. You put it into a plethora of wide receivers, which brings a multitude and different variety of skills that you can use with Patrick Mahomes. And you still have Patrick Mahomes, who can turn chicken shit into chicken salad anytime he wants to. He could take chicken shit and turn it into something that Bobby Flay would get chopped on, or he could bring something that could beat Bobby Flay on his own show. My name is Patrick Mahomes, and I just beat Bobby Flay, biatches. So it's a situation where, again, is Kansas City better without Tyreek Hill? No, but they're a different team, and the different team that they've morphed into is good enough to win a championship. If they play like they did against Tampa, they'll beat anybody. I don't care exactly how much they bring to the table. Now, you can make the argument, hey, look, man, Tampa is still without a lot of his skill offensive players. They had to be dealing with a Hurricane Ian that, was a distraction for them. Because of that, a natural disaster. So these guys are husbands. These guys are sons. These guys are fathers. These guys are regular citizens. So just because these guys are rich, and just because these guys play football, and just because these guys, do what they do, the Hurricane don't give a shit. So, they had to deal with that. How much did that play into Tampa and that defense giving up 41 points? And how much did that play into the performance that was on display on Sunday night? We don't know. But I remember there was a game where Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl against it was a Sunday night football game in the regular season, the year that the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl, where they played the New Orleans Saints and were obliterated and were embarrassed. I think they only ran the ball like 5 times and threw it like 40 or some nonsense like that. And New Orleans just whooped them pretty good. And Tampa still found a way to win the Super Bowl. Last year, there was already talk, I think somewhere during the middle of the season, about Kansas City not having the touch, not having the defense, not having the abilities. What's wrong with Patrick Mahomes? Why is he throwing all these terrible interceptions? What's going on? He's trying to hit these home runs instead of settling for singles and doubles and all this type of stuff. So, look, 4 games into the season, again, what's the takeaway from this game, Tampa and Kansas City? Sit back, relax, enjoy. Kansas City improves to 3-1. Tampa falls to 2-2. 13 more games left. A lot of stuff, a lot of storylines, a lot of ebbs and flows, a lot of breakups to makeups to be told in this story. Wendell's World of Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us in the next a few minutes, because look, I just can't go over all these games. I can't go over. Hooray for the Jets getting the 2-2. Zach Wilson coming back and looking pretty good. Green Bay looking shaky, almost losing or almost tying to the New England Patriots with a third-string quarterback, but they got the job done in a game that they needed to win. As Brett Favre, my bad. As far as Aaron Rodgers said, in London, I hate using the word D-O-I-N-K, doink, doink, but, a game that I didn't see because it came on at 6 a.m. out here, and Kirk Cousins versus Andy Dalton really doesn't energize me to wake up at that time, but it was a good game for the folks in London and for the NFL itself to broaden its appeal and its enthusiasm for sporting fans from across the country or from across the world, even though there's no way in HELL that London or anywhere in England will be having a professional football team anywhere in my lifetime, I'm going to guess. But that was a pretty good game. We can go on down the line and this, that, and the other. What's wrong with the Indianapolis Colts? Another loss. The 49ers bouncing back nicely. Deebo Samuels showing why he's one of the best players in the NFL. The Rams fall to 2-2 again early in the season. Can't get too hyped up. Can't get too concerned about all those type of things. So, Wendell's World of Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us. Talked about the situation, or I didn't talk about the situation where Kenny Pickett is going to be the new starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. What does that mean for the Steelers moving forward? They're not rebuilding. They are still having a defense to where who knows what Kenny Pickett can turn into. I remember, about 18 years ago where this rookie quarterback out of the MAC got the opportunity to be a game manager in Ben Roethlisberger, and I think in the second year, it was a situation where he either won the Super Bowl. In his first year, he lost in the AFC Championship game to Tom Brady, and then in the second year of Roethlisberger being the quarterback of the Steelers, he rode the bus, namely Jerome Bettis, in the defense to a championship. So it's a situation where Pittsburgh has already found success where you don't need a franchise quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger turned into a Hall of Fame, one of the best of his generation quarterback, but his first and second year in the NFL, he was far from that, and relying on defense, relying on the running game, and relying on great coaching, the Steelers found a way to win a Super Bowl. So maybe they're trying to have lightning strike twice, start the Kenny Pickett era, get his feet wet, throw him into the deep end, see if he can swim, and still have Pittsburgh win games, because the ceiling of Mitchell Trubisky, and it's a situation where we know what we're getting from Trubisky, a guy that's not going to lead us to a championship. So let's kind of start the evaluation process right now with Kenny Pickett to see if this is going to be a guy that we can rely on, not just for this season, not just for next season, but for years and years down the road. So Wendell's World in Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us. I proposed this on my audio episode that I published on Monday about what's happening, what's going on, what is the deal with Oklahoma football, college football. Man, they were bad. Good Lord, they were bad. Jeez, they were bad. Eric G. and Coach Jones, who do a show on the Sports Animal out there in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which you can listen to 11 to 2 Central Standard Time. Big Oklahoma fans, know the Oklahoma Sooners, know the Big 12, talk about Oklahoma, talk about Oklahoma State. Eric G. covers the Sooners and the Cats from Stillwater. What is going on? What is happening? What is going on with the Oklahoma Sooners? That was atrocious. And as we take a look at the new football rankings, Alabama becoming the new number 1 team in the country, Georgia falling to number 2. Georgia got by Missouri 26-22, but really, if you take a look at it, that wasn't the reason. That was the final nail in terms of Georgia moving out of the number 1 spot. The game before that, where they beat Kent 39-22, which they sleptwalk, I think was the precipice of the fall from the number 1 perch for the Georgia Bulldogs. But Alabama became the new number 1 ranked team in the country, 49-26 over Arkansas, which you could probably say, even though arguing Georgia's victory over Oregon in week 1, I guess you could say that might have been better, but you could say as far as the top 3 contenders are concerned, between Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia, that the victory that Alabama had this past weekend over Arkansas, 49-26, in which they led 28-0, had their lead cut down to 28-23, had to run an offense on the fly after Bryce Young Heisman Trophy winner, one of the best players in college football, got injured, didn't return. Still was able to pull away from a team on the road, still ranked in the top 20. That was pretty doggone impressive. But, still a lot of football in college football. And if you make the top 4, who really gives a damn what position that you're in? Because if you remember, the conference championship games are at a neutral site. The semifinal games in college football are on a neutral site. And the championship game is on a neutral site. So who gives a damn? If you're Georgia, you're going to have to play Alabama, Ohio State, or somebody if you want to win a championship. Same with Ohio State. You're going to have to play Alabama or Georgia. Same with Alabama. You're going to have to play Georgia or Ohio State. So, whether you're ranked number 4, ranked number 1, or in between 1 and 4, who really gives a damn? Getting back to Oklahoma, I'm just chomping at the bits to hear my man Eric G talk about a team in Oklahoma that was atrocious on Saturday. Absolutely atrocious. A defense in Oklahoma that gave up scoring touchdowns of 73, 68, 67, 62 yards, gave up a total of 668 yards, 361 of those on the ground. The Horned Frogs, how about them Horned Frogs from TCU, scored 41 points, 563 yards of offense in one half? What in the Brent Venables is going on here? The shine is already off that guy. I'm not talking about firing him or any nonsensical, way too early to be sitting there talking about Oklahoma made a mistake and all this type of stuff. But it's got to hurt. It's got to feel painful. It's got to be sickening. The fact that Lincoln Riley is now in USC. And while the Trojans have some deficiencies of their own, which can be exposed when they play better competition or the top tier teams in college football, they're still ranked number 6 from a preseason ranking somewhere in the 15 to 23, 24 rank range. They haven't lost. Caleb Williams is playing like a Heisman Trophy candidate, and they're rocking and rolling. So for Oklahoma, how does that feel? It must suck. If you want to check out my thoughts and feelings about about Tua Tagovailoa and what happened to him on the Thursday night game against Pittsburgh, and the culture of the NFL, the culture of us, the fans, and the media, and the players and such, lending a role in the injury towards with Tua. Check that out on my audio page. I get into it to say that, hey, you know what, equating, the reasons why Tua felt compelled to go back and play, even though he suffered a concussion, even though the nonsense that the Dolphins were talking about against the Buffalo Bills, where he suffered a back and neck and ankle injury. Bullshit, come on, man. But the fact that Tua felt compelled to come back and play 4 days later because being stuck with that stigma of being injury prone, can't make the club if you're always in the tub, especially if you were picked as high as Tua was with the injury history that he has. This is a situation where I'm not saying that he was bullied or that he was pressured, but, as far as from an ego standpoint is concerned and everything, yeah, man, Tua was like, I can't have that stigma. I can't have that label. So he came back, and this is what happened. So while we always like to talk about who's to blame, this, that, and the other for situations like this, I think that me, you, and others share a small, very minute guilt or blame in what happened to Tua. Not enough for us to be walking around with our heads down looking like chumps, but still the culture of sports and the culture of professional sports, especially when you're speaking about NFL and manliness and toughness and playing through pain and mental and physical toughness and all those type of things, we have to kind of reevaluate those monikers and those labels that we give to football players, professional athletes, and such. All right, I'm out of here. Good to go. I want to thank everybody for listening to my podcast. Everybody be safe. Everybody be well. Everybody do what we need to do to make this world a better place. And I'm not going to start singing the Michael Jackson song, Heal the World, but we need to go out and learn from other people of a different race, of a different gender, of a different political background. And we need to make sure that we take those lessons that we learn from others not like us, and then we teach the children of the world. So when Judgment Day comes, and whether we're going up or whether we're going down, we'll have something to hang our hat on in terms of helping move the world in a more positive direction, a utopian society where truly people are based on their intelligence and the goodness of their hearts, and not on their skin color, or not on their, gender, or not on their last name, or how much they have in the bank account, or how rich they are, poor they are, they're independent, progressive, and none of that nonsense. Just based on your heart, based on your willingness to learn, willingness to share, willingness to give respect to others, willingness to love others who deserve to be loved because of their kindness and their good-heartedness. Those things that we need to do and we need to work on, and we need to start doing that right now. Wendell's World in Sports. Be safe, be good. Lord have mercy. Get me out of here with some music.